Recently, the federal government has twisted the arm of grocers and made them sign the Grocer Code of Conduct. There's been a lot of acrimony among the Canadian public towards grocers as food inflation, I hate that term, the price of food has soared recently. Some estimates as much as 20% in 4 years. Um, so why are the cost of groceries going up so much? Um, some people have claimed that the grocery stores are profiteering, taking advantage of the inflation, and I think it's misguided to place the blame on grocery stores. I mean, grocery stores are doing nothing wrong. Their margins are paper thin. They make a few percent on each product, and they have massive volume. So if grocery stores are making high profits, that simply means that they're providing what consumers want. That people are buying more groceries or spending more of their income on groceries. Maybe they're eating out less, and so have a higher demand for to cook food. But they shouldn't be. No company should be attacked for making profits because all that profits mean is that you've done a better job of forecasting consumer demand than other entrepreneurs. You've ensured that factors of production have been aligned in such a manner as to produce what people want. That's not something you should be assailed for. That's something that should be celebrated. We should say, you did a good job. I mean, obviously, food is a very basic, important thing that people need. I don't understand why they would attack the people that are bringing it to market and bringing it to market in such a way that it's affordable, convenient, easy to purchase. Most of the grocery code of conduct actually has to deal with the relationship between suppliers and big grocery stores. And I think they're trying to foster competition. But really, one of the features of large corporations like Walmart or these big grocery chains is that they can run roughshod over suppliers and dictate to them, listen, you're going to give it to us at this price, and they have really no choice but to comply. And that's one of the ways that large corporations like Walmart keep prices low is by basically keeping suppliers in check. So to the degree that the code of conduct is going to prevent that, I think that's only going to increase prices because, uh, as I said, the margins are very thin. So any savings that the corporations obtain from running roughshod over the suppliers gets passed on to the consumers. I think the real culprit behind high food costs is pretty obvious. Well, for one, it's inflation. It's the deficit spending of the Liberal government. It's the expansion of the money supply in order to come up with that deficit spending. We're seeing prices rise across the board. The other thing was, we're still feeling the effects of the loose monetary policy of previous years when interest rates were at 0%. And, okay, CPI wasn't going up very much, but those aren't the only prices in the economy. So, the way that inflation works is it's not like an even all prices go up 1% or 5%. If you print 5% more money, it's not like all prices go up 5%. Instead, it goes up unevenly. So a lot of that money, that new money, went into real estate because a lot of Canadians were investing a lot of their or putting a lot of their money into their homes. So you had this process of money creation, and it was fueling ever higher real estate prices. But because it wasn't going out into the rest of the economy as much, we weren't feeling the increase in prices there. Well, that changed, um, in part because we've had such a bad economy for so long, um, and and uh, and also because now home prices are so high that a lot of people are realizing, they don't really have a shot of owning a home. So whatever, they just spending more money, um, and also just the money sort of gradually made its way through the rest of the economy as it tends to do. So now it's going to food, and of course, a byproduct of higher real estate values is higher rents. Rents are a factor of housing value. It's not the only factor, but they are a factor of it. So the monetary policy, the expansionary monetary policy of the Liberal government, I would say is absolutely a big factor behind rising food prices. Another big problem is the carbon tax because uh, the way that farming is done nowadays is it's very fuel intensive, tractors and whatnot. Uh, so so fuel is a huge input into into producing food, and uh, you start taxing that, and it's going to become more expensive, and so consumers are gonna pay down the road. One thing we could do to help the situation out would be to end supply management, uh, and also to open up our our food industry, our to foreign imports like milk. Milk, I know, we're highly protectionist and stuff, so we could import American milk. That would help drive costs down somewhat. Part of the problem is the way that the Competition Bureau and bureaucrats in Ottawa conceptualize competition. So there's a misconception that competition is a head count. You have to have 7 firms or 10 firms or whatever, um, and the more firms in a market, the more competitive it is. The fewer firms, the less competitive. That's simply not a fact. And there's no shortage of smaller food stores in Canada, at least in my experience. I've been to many, you know, like there'll be like halal stores and Indian stores and whatnot. And usually, the prices aren't as good. Sometimes they're competitive on a few things, and sometimes it's easier to find a few things. Um, and the selection's not very good. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to shop there, you know? It's kind of maybe a fun way to spend the afternoon sometimes, but, you can go to a supermarket and you can get whatever you want. Usually the prices are much better, especially if you're going to a less expensive supermarket like No Frills or Food Basics or the Asian grocery stores, often very inexpensive for certain things. The other thing you can do is flyer shop. which all the flyers are online. It takes like 5 minutes, and if you can really you can save a lot of money that way. Another thing that people should consider, and uh, you know, I'm not one to talk here, but eat less, right? You don't always have to have huge meals. You can skip a meal. You can skip a whole day of food fasting. It's perfectly fine, especially if you're overweight, as so many people are, as I certainly am. Um, and eat more staple foods. You know, don't go to restaurants. Restaurants are a ripoff. The food's not very good, and then they expect you to tip 15, 20%, which is just outrageous. Uh, yeah, you move something from point A to point B. Congratulations. Don't even get me started on tipping culture. It's so stupid, you know. Um, like unless you're really really financially successful, you should be cooking all your own meals basically, and eat smaller portions too. That's the other thing. How to my tips on how to survive in the high food cost era. Um, but yeah, it's not the grocery stores to blame. It's the government as always. Uh, there's no problem with the food market in Canada. It's competitive. The last thing we need is for the government to step in and so-called solve the problem, when in reality they're the one that created this problem in the first place with the printing the money, with the tax, the carbon tax, to save the environment or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that fuel is a huge input cost for farming, so that is going to drive up the price of food. That's pretty much unavoidable, and and so this is a whole lot of they're trying to distract behind what's really to blame, and and it's not. I mean, it's not greedy corporations. Corporations have always been greedy. People are always everybody's greedy. Like everybody wants a higher salary. They always want to charge the most for their stuff and pay the least for everybody else. That's not There's nothing unique about that, but economic reality is that prices are set by supply and demand. They're not unilaterally dictated by any one player. So be a good consumer. Make sure to shop for the bargains and don't blame the market for things that the government did. Zach out.